Yo, what's going on, True Fam? Welcome back to the channel. It's Whiteshadow, and today, guys, we're going to tell you the differences between a condenser style microphone and a dynamic microphone. So let's go ahead and check them out. So today, guys, we're going to talk about the differences of a dynamic microphone, which is what we're speaking into here, versus a condenser microphone. Now, disclaimer, and I know somebody in the comment section is going to say this. Whiteshadow, that's a USB style condenser microphone, and you're using a XLR dynamic microphone, but you're supposed to use two XLRs. Not really. This is a condenser microphone for all intents and purposes. This is a dynamic microphone for all intents and purposes. Don't worry about the type of connections that they have. That doesn't change the sound. That doesn't change anything about the microphone itself, only the expandability. We'll get into the differences between a USB microphone and XLR in a different video. For now, let's focus on the differences between the two types of microphones that we have here. Starting with the dynamic, since that's what we're talking into. The dynamic microphones are designed to block out as much background noise as as mechanically possible. Now, it's not going to virtually block out every single bit of noise in the background. It's still going to capture a little bit just because of the polar pattern that is designed around a dynamic. Most of them are going to be cardioid, which, you know, it's the heart shaped. And if you're looking at the heart shape like this, the little butt of the heart is the one that rejects the most noise. That's how the polar pattern is. Now, most of your dynamics are also going to be top firing. That means they capture audio from the top. Whereas a condenser style microphone, like the one that we have here, you talk directly into the side of it. So if you ever see somebody talking into the top of a condenser microphone, unless it says so in the instructions, you're doing it wrong. Going back to the dynamic for a minute. The one that we have here is the Blue Encore 200. This is considered an active dynamic microphone. It does require 48 volts of phantom power. But this is the only microphone of its kind in the dynamic space right now, and Blue kind of pioneered this. Normal dynamic microphones do not need 48 volts of phantom power and will require a pretty decently powerful preamp. So when you're purchasing a interface or a mixer, make sure you're looking at the specifications of the microphone that you purchased, being dynamic, and make sure it's giving enough power to the capsule, or else you're going to sound extremely quiet, especially if you're running something like a Shure SM7B, a Rode Procaster, or a Heil PR40, some high caliber dynamic microphone. Most of them do require a decent bit of preamp gain. So there are accessories and things of that sort to bring that gain up a little bit that we'll talk about in another video, because I have one coming. Let's go ahead and switch over to the condenser style microphone, and we'll kind of talk about the differences of it. So now we are talking into the condenser microphone. Now, the differences with condenser microphones are that the condenser capsules in these microphones are designed to capture as much noise as possible. And you can kind of see where that can be an issue in some environments. Now, if you have a controlled environment like a studio or a home office, or you have a dedicated streaming room with not a lot of incoming noise, that's going to be a nice thing, because this is going to capture your voice and your voice only. Now, some things to keep in mind when using a condenser microphone. Make sure your PC fans and things of that sort aren't really running loud, or else it's going to pick it up unless you have something like a noise gate. Now, you can use things like a noise gate or a compressor to kind of clean up all of that extra noise inside your room. Just keep in mind that a condenser microphone is going to capture as much noise as in the room. It can capture stuff across the house if you put the gain up enough. Now, a really cool thing about condenser microphones is the frequency range on these bad boys. Most of the time, you're going to find condenser microphones with a frequency range of 20 hertz all the way up to 20,000 hertz. That's a big range, and most of them have a vocal presence boost somewhere in the mid-range around 4 or 5,000 hertz. That's really going to bring the midtones, or depending on your voice, or bring the upper range of your voice out and make you feel really present. Condenser microphones tend to have a little bit more of dynamic range than a dynamic. That's not to say that some dynamics don't have that. This one here has the vocal presence in that 4 to 5,000 hertz, as well as many others like the Rode Procaster that I use or the Shure SM7B. So you can get that with a dynamic, but keep in mind you're going to have much more frequency range here with a condenser. Now, one downfall to a condenser microphone can be that they sometimes make your voice, or can make your voice, sound really vibrant to the point where your S's and your P's are going to be really sharp in people's ears. There are ways to tone that down, of course, dropping the gain and kind of tuning the audio. Like this one here, some of the condensers that you'll find have a pad where they kind of roll off the lower frequencies to reduce rumble, but they also have what they call a low cut filter to kind of drop the decibels down so those S's aren't as sharp. It kind of helps smooth out the tone and kind of keep everything even. Condenser microphones will suck in a ton of noise, and we're going to test that out here in just a second with a clap test between the two. I'm going to get behind the camera and clap my hands as loud as possible, and you'll immediately tell that you can hear a ton of noise. You can actually possibly hear the echo, because I'm in kind of a bigger room here. You can potentially hear the echo of my voice back into the rear of the room. The condenser style microphones are made to capture sound. That's why you see them being used in a studio setting or a more controlled environment. So if you guys have stuff like kids running around, or you have a air conditioning or something of that sort in the background, condenser mic isn't for you. Go dynamic. Now, between the two styles of microphones, there's literally hundreds of options. So just make sure when you're purchasing a condenser or a dynamic, you get the correct interface. For a condenser style microphone, you will need an interface that supplies 48 volts of phantom power. And make sure it's giving it enough ohms. And ohms is a big thing with condenser microphones. With dynamic, most of the time you don't really have to worry about the ohms, but you have to worry about the sound pressure level and the gain sensitivity. Gain sensitivity is a big deal on a dynamic because that's what powers the capsule. The capsule on a dynamic is actually powered phantomly through the preamp itself, and it relies on how much sound pressure is hitting the capsule in order to capture your voice. It's a different style of microphone. This one, on the other hand, is powered, so it needs extra power in order to pick up your voice. See the difference? So now we're going to go ahead and jump behind the camera. I'm going to do a clap test, starting with the condenser mic here, and then moving over to the dynamic. Clap test for the condenser microphone. Clap test for the dynamic microphone. So we're back on the dynamic here, and I'm going to kind of round out the video here for you guys. I'm just going to kind of leave it up to you guys in the comments and kind of take your pick on which microphone you would go with. I made this video to kind of help you guys and educate you on the differences between the two. One thing I will note before we leave here is a dynamic microphone does need to be up closer to your voice, or your mouth, I should say, to kind of capture the tonality of your voice. The farther I get away from it, the less it's gonna pick me up. See, I'm all the way over here. Versus a condenser microphone, I could be leaned back in the chair and you guys could still hear me. The condenser microphones are great for a controlled environment. Dynamics are going to be a lot better for those that need some sound deadening and they don't have the optimal space to do so. I went with a dynamic because I have kids and I have air conditioners running and dogs barking, cats meowing, all of that stuff in the background. Once I get a controlled environment, I may get me a Rode NT1 or an NT1A because that's one of my favorite condenser microphones on the market and I love the tone of them. But right now it just doesn't suit my needs and I'm not going to go with a condenser mic while streaming. So just kind of take all of that stuff into consideration when purchasing a microphone, guys, and you kind of take an educated decision. If you guys ever need any help, feel free to reach out. You can find me at one of the links below. Same goes for TRUgaming. If you need to get in touch with them for any way, shape, or form, you can even reach me there as well. Check out the links below. Be sure to follow us all on social media. But guys, that about wraps it up for this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit that thumbs up button and be sure to smash the subscribe button for more videos like this. There will be more to come. In the next video, we're probably going to talk about the differences between a USB microphone and the differences between an XLR microphone. So guys, I will see you in the next video. Until next time, hope this helped. Whiteshadow out.